wonderful episode. This is a good part of my day. This is a day that I enjoy. This is a time that I enjoy. Let me minimize some windows here. I got the chat window up. Brandon West says, good stuff, Noah. Keep it up. Thank you very much. I try. I put in a lot of effort. I enjoy it. And that means this is a good time for myself and a good time for everyone else, I hope. This is an exciting day. Every day is another exciting day in the crypto space because things actually happen. New things, disruptive things. What happens in the legacy system? It takes forever for change to occur if it ever occurs at all. But there's something new on a daily basis in the crypto space. Welcome to change. Welcome to something that many of us have been accustomed to for many years, particularly software engineers and developers. We're used to things happening relatively quickly, but what's so interesting is the tools that are being built, crypto and DeFi, are being built at software pace, whereas these types of tools in the legacy system are a lot of manual processes, a lot of infrastructure and human resources, which is why they basically haven't changed for the better part of 100 years. Banks probably operate still on paper in countless regards. They probably still use fax machines. But in the DeFi and crypto space, this is all software, replacing entire organizations, entire business stacks and departments, and eliminating human resources in favor of algorithms, immutable software recorded on distributed, decentralized ledgers. Profound, profoundly disruptive. Did you bite or just nibble? What's up in the house? Julian, yeah. No, maybe. I don't know. It's up to everyone to think. Thank you for those kind words. What I got on the screen right now is DeFi Pulse. This is basically the state of DeFi. So interestingly enough, 1.62 billion is a relatively large number, but in the grand scheme of things, it's for all practical purposes zero. We're talking about $250 in the global, probably more than $250 in the global financial system between actual currency, actual fiat, physical fiat, and leveraged debt. The vast majority of it being obviously leveraged debt. If you want to look to see how much actual dollars there are, you look at M1 money supply at the U.S. Treasury. Um, and then you could look at then you look at derivatives and the amount and what the Fed produces based on this fundamental money supply, and you could see how much leveraged debt is out there. It's just absolute garbage. So in the grand scheme of things, this is tiny stuff. 1.62 billion dollars. That was the whole point of that long statement. But we had a nice spike back here in the last month or so, and I don't know essentially overwhelmingly what accounted for it, but it could very well have been WBTC and REN with the availability of equity, which can be used as collateral for loans and leveraged positions. Lewis Barry, debt? What? Oh my God. Debt. Oh, debt. All right, I don't want to talk too much about financial recommendations, but generally speaking, debt is evil. Before investing, you need to eliminate debt. Um, First and foremost, any debt that can be eliminated is the most important pursuit. But secondarily, it is also okay if debt is manageable. Um, that's just an absolute necessity. You cannot be over leveraged yourself. Look what's happening with the governments. We do not want to be in the same position ourselves or as a family. So if we look at DeFi Pulse, some interesting things have happened over the last pretty much day or so. This is Ren, and its total volume is massive, and the vast majority of it has come in the last 2 weeks. Absolutely explosive consumption, and the total value locked just keeps going up. If you combine the total value locked with the amount of REN bonded for the dark nodes, it puts Ren pretty much at position 9, beating out Uniswap V1 and Bancor, and nipping at the heels of DYDX, which is a one heck of a DEX, a decentralized exchange, um, which is crazy. So you're talking about 1 month since launch, and Ren is already at number 9 on DeFi Pulse. Fran says, how much did you get on your dark world last month? Will it be a fun thing to remember in a year from now? I think it was $20. I'm looking forward. I don't look at the numbers right now. I wouldn't even sell. Listen, dark nodes, am I connected? So I'm not connected at the moment. Let's see if I connect real quick. Give me 2 seconds. Boop boop boop. Ren dark node. Connect connect. There you go. Hello. Et voila. $21.28 and available to withdraw. So I got Bitcoin, BCH, and Zcash. There's no reason to remove this. The gas fees are crazy right now. So the appropriate course of action at the moment is to accumulate. That's a no-brainer. And as you guys obviously see, I have a decent position in Ren. I know people with plenty more. And frankly, you do recall that my position was acquired way before the most recent run, so I, this was not purchased at the current value. So that's a complicated question and a discussion of when to get in, why to get in, how to get in. Is something going to decrease in price, increase in price? That's a topic unto itself. Lewis says the government and the people are at an all-time high with regard to get on their balance sheets. Listen, the government has no capacity whatsoever to run down their balance sheet. The second they stop printing, the second they stop providing liquidity, and the Fed thousand acronyms of programs, the market will crash. The market is a house of cards, completely supported by the Federal Reserve. There's no way the market can be self-sustaining, definitely at the moment, and likely for a fair amount of the future. Um, I see no short-term self-sustainability at all. Made it. John's in the house. I know it's 12 o'clock on a weekday. We're all at work. It was good to see anyone and everyone that can make it. Great old time. Great people. Why are the gas fees so high? So gas fees are ridiculous. This is a big problem with Ethereum 1.0. There's an EIP that's being pushed through right now that'll change the protocol in which gas is calculated. And that is important. So for Ethereum 1.0, that will help. Well, what's even more useful for Ethereum 1.0 is obviously the second layer solutions, but also the GST2 tokens and Chi tokens. So 1inch.exchange created the Chi token, which produces a substantial reduction in gas fees. So, for instance, if you do a trade on 1inch.exchange and it populates MetaMask, you'll see like a $50 gas fee. But then you execute the trade, and you'll notice in Etherscan that the transaction burned like 5 Chi tokens valued at like $1.50. So Chi tokens are so meaningful. In fact, they're just much more efficient than GST2 tokens. So I think that is an important thing to recommend and ask your favorite protocols to implement ASAP, which is Chi gas token support. Craig says, what up? Yeah. Lewis says, Lynn Alden. Oh, that's what's up. Lynn is one of the smartest people in the room. Period. She's someone to listen to. Bear in mind, I don't trust equities at all, so she loves equities. But she is overwhelmingly one of the smartest people in the world. Mez. Word, Noah. I try. I don't know all the answers, but I know how to contemplate the dialogue with myself and other people, the discussion that's necessary to get the best possible answers. So we got crazy stuff going on, and I got Bancor V2 up on the screen. John says, "Have you heard of M-Stable and their protocol token?" Sure, M-Stable is cool. I've heard about the ridiculous yields. I haven't looked into it too much. I would be spreading too thin to even remotely consider a position. So it's not on my radar in that regard. Um, what DMM? I find DMM interesting. Let me see. Here, let's pull it up. So DMM, John, you'd find this interesting being in the legacy markets. Tim Draper is involved with DMM. So DMM, you mint MF, MDI, MUSDC using FDI and USDC, and you get 6.25% yield. And the yield comes from uh, auto loans, and a variety of other actual real world tangible assets. So Tim Draper's in this product, and I find it quite interesting because in the crypto space, yield is generated by transaction fees, um, predominantly, and lending, obviously. But this asset, these M assets, generate yield from actual real world tangible physical assets, which is quite fascinating. And now this is a no-brainer. If MF is added as collateral support for MakerDAO, um, now you're talking about getting 6.25% and being able to leverage DAI on top of it. Uh, you see how this whole DeFi space is kind of spiraling. It's all connected together, and the ability to generate yield on top of yield just makes the legacy system seem pathetic with its 0.01% bank rates and whatever the hell is going 0.65% on the 10-year treasury. Who in their right mind is going to put money in that? Um, Franz says you get 50% of your income and then the rest next month, right? Dark node. Yeah, unknown specifically. What's pertinent is that you're getting 0.1% of the burn and 0.1% of the mint on Ren dark nodes. And that number is going to vary over time as Ren's protocol is designed to be dynamic, to affect user behavior, to either encourage or discourage the minting or burning process, to either encourage or discourage the appreciation or depreciation of REN itself. Absolutely fascinating how the algorithms are going to be tweaked over the coming months as they get to mainnet 1. RR says, loving these live tutorials. Yeah, I enjoy it too. It's good stuff. Thank you. I appreciate it. I appreciate your appreciation. Lewis says, is the Kyber burning mechanism specifically only for deflationary effect? Yes. So the burning mechanism is currently the case in their current protocol that's deployed. A portion of trading fees are used to burn Kyber. Uh, but the new protocol upgrade, we'll skip the Kyber, Catalyst, which was pretty much announced in December 17th of 2019. So folks had pretty much 6 months time to get their appetite wet and get their positions ready. Um, but we just heard the announcement that is coming out on the 7th of July. Obviously, I'm excited to see what happens. Where is the list of it's here. Here it is. So here's the new protocol properties that are most pertinent. A participation reward, the burning, which is currently in existence, and the reserve incentives. So the participation reward is compensation for staking. So this is basically going to encourage deflationary pressure because if there's reward for staking, people are going to want to stake, and that's going to remove supply from the market. And obviously, burning destroys supply, so that removes supply from the market. So now we have two components that place deflationary pressure on the asset, and the reserve incentive is incentives for liquidity providers, which is obviously going to encourage them to pursue integrations and marketing, so on and so forth, and relationships and partnerships. So this is one of the most, this is the trifecta, I think, of such a well thought out approach to taking Kyber or frankly any asset in this space to one heck of a level. These two, one and two, are going to seriously put deflationary pressure, and that is proportional to appreciation pressure, so to speak. Um, Bradley says, "Did you hear about the Balancer DeFi hack?" Sure, half a mil worth of wrapped coin strand. Yeah, that's unfortunate. Um, I don't know. I have never heard of the tokens involved in that hack. Uh, one and two, I have no interest in impermanent losses, even considering what 100%, 200% ROI on some of these pools. Even with the BAL incentives, I just don't have interest in impermanent losses at all. The whole the whole goal really is what a Bancor is pressing or pushing towards with their V2 protocol. And you can see the high level statements right here. It's going to bypass exposure to impermanent loss. It's going to give the ability to have retain 100% exposure to a single token. Um, this changes everything, absolutely everything. So you could have, in fact, their launch test is with Kyber. So you can provide Kyber, retain 100% exposure to your Kyber. You're going to get trading rewards, and you're going to avoid impermanent losses. And that really is what I've been hoping for, and really is the holy grail of DMM, market makers, or AMM, automated market makers. Absolutely incredible what is about to come, and this is going to put pressure on the rest of um, uh, the space, the other pools to achieve comparable features to be competitive. They'll remain competitive no matter what the protocol is, but at least to attempt to be iteratively competitive and push the technology and the space forward. This is extremely exciting. And look, this is coming out just around the same time as the Kyber release. They're pushing for July, and Kyber's coming out on July 7th. Um, for transparency, I don't own a position in Bancor, not because I don't want to. I am priced out. I would be spread too thin. Would I own a position in Bancor? Absolutely. Am I FOMOing? Absolutely. It is the case that I cannot own something that I want to own. And I've talked about this in previous videos. Never spread too thin and never go all in. It's the truth. And it's complicated portfolio balance. Yeah, DMM. Let's close this bad boy, but this is quite interesting. I think what's most interesting about this is uh, the blending of real world revenue with a crypto asset to track whom the returns go to. I think that I think we're going to see a lot more of this over the coming months and definitely years. I mean, to such a degree that I mean, look at the list. I mean, Tim's up in this bad boy. Um, I mean, look at these integration, look at the news articles, and Chainlink provides obviously the Oracle data. I mean, this is much potential, but we really need a way to use it as collateral, because then you could get your 2.6.25% and also leverage a DAI position, and that allows you to earn additional yield. Now it's interesting because 6.25% in the legacy markets is one heck of a yield. You can't get this, and the only place you're really going to get 6.25% remotely securely is in the REIT space. Um, but I don't trust equities. Even a REIT is an equity in many regards, even though they give the vast majority of their money as return on investment to holders, asset holders. I don't trust the stability of the system. It's all propped up by the Federal Reserve and this ridiculous, disgusting amount of liquidity. Um, any interesting comments? So I post obviously a lot on Twitter. We're going live. Kyber Network upgrade. A lot of people like that. The Sunday Q&A went really well. Folks loving the Bancor release. I'm so excited for it too. I'm more excited for the Kyber Network release, particularly because I have a position myself. Um, what else? So this is about the Kyber Network release. And, it all plays part to a big picture of what is forming, which is tools and utilities that render the legacy financial system inferior in countless regards. The ability to achieve or create recurring revenue streams using assets that are appreciating themselves. Craig says, what are your thoughts on Lend? Lend is Lend a governance token? I don't think they have decentralized governance. So Lend was what is, I believe, the original lender. I mean, they launched, I think, in 2017. It was called ETHLend. So I am not a speculative investor, um, and I don't see any yield on Lend. I don't see any yield on BAL. I don't see any yield on Comp. Those are not assets I have interest in adding to my portfolio. I structure my portfolio predominantly on yield and recurring revenue streams. And obviously, I look forward to appreciation. And when an asset appreciates substantially, that's when you consider rebalancing. Um, Synthetics appreciated substantially. I minted more SUSD. I took some of the profits, I moved it into WBTC, added it to my CurveFi SBTC liquidity pool position. And so these are critical thoughts to always think of. You never want to you never liquidate an entire position. I mean, the whole goal of a recurring revenue stream and these yield producing assets is to accumulate them. You take the yield from the asset, the yield that the asset produces, and you roll them into a greater position in the asset. And that produces a deflationary pressure on the asset, encouraging appreciation. and and this is a waste of time in the legacy financial system. Can you imagine applying this to a bank account at 0.101% interest? It's like you're accumulating dollars to add to the bank account to get more yield, but the yield is useless. But at 6.25% with DMM, at whatever rent is going to be. This is going to be a beast with these dark nodes. There's $20.74. Absolutely fascinating for the first month. I mean, what's more exciting is I mean, $24 million in the first month. Could this be $100 million the second month? Are we going to see this exponential growth continue? If we had $1 billion worth of monthly volume, which doesn't mean value locked, we want to see value going in with the mint and value coming out with the burn. We want to see churn, use of the network for its functional purpose, and that's volume, not necessarily value locked. And that's, from a revenue perspective, that's where the revenue comes from, but also from a functional perspective, that's so meaningful as a financial system. REN, dark nodes, REN VM, facilitates the ability to access the equity currently of a Bitcoin position. Obviously, a Zcash position and a Bitcoin Cash position. But in the future, this will expand to all UTXO assets. And typically, most UTXO assets are dormant. They just sit. And folks are speculating that they will appreciate. And, you know, just appreciation, you got to sell. Wait for it to dip, you got to buy. It goes up, you got to sell. It goes down, you got to buy. So that's why I'm not too interested in that type of investment strategy. It's not for me. John says, whoa, I missed a bunch. What are your thoughts on the Mickmon says is DMM non-custodial? It's a centralized entity that obviously has ownership of real-world tangible assets that's distributing return. I don't know the connection between their real-world revenue stream their um, and their M tokens. So that's a good question. Lewis says REITs will be at the mercy of commercial real estate loan defaults. I mean, listen, if there's no revenue for the companies, if the revenue is, look, if a restaurant's revenue is 20% less than it was last year, the restaurants they're non-solvent. They don't have the revenue stream to handle their monthly debt servicing payments. And with a 50% capacity, uh, mandated in many regards, clearly that's more than a 20% reduction in revenue. Fundamentally, the entire system, the entire financial system is disrupted at a global level. Supply disruption and demand disruption. And as Raul Powell, we're approaching the solvency event. And obviously, this is where the zombie companies come in because technically they're insolvent. They can't pay their debts, but they're being propped up by cheap, basically free loans and handouts. But there'll be a lot of The vast majority will have to go through bankruptcy. Chesapeake Energy just hit bankruptcy. I mean, come on, that's probably a hot stock on Robinhood, and they're hitting bankruptcy just like Hertz. Hot stock on Robinhood. They're bankrupt. They're not solvent. They don't have any revenue streams. Absolutely disturbing what is about to unfold in the next couple of months. John says Beam, which I believe is based on Mimblewimble, is moving from privacy coin to a privacy oriented DeFi platform. I do not have thoughts on Beam. It is not on my radar because I don't have any room left in my portfolio. I have to go to work, and if I am able to accumulate more of the funny money, US dollars, then I could consider adding more positions. So I don't know anything about Beam at the moment, but obviously, I mean, look what they're trying to do. They're trying to pivot. And that's actually a good sign. Pivoting from a privacy coin to a privacy oriented DeFi platform, I mean, it reminds me of AOL. AOL is the historic giant of the pivot. Their business was dying, and they pivoted into a conglomerate that owns some of the some very successful brands. I used to work at the Huffington Post. AOL owns the Huffington Post, so on and so forth. So pivoting is, and this is what Facebook does as well. The companies they've bought over the years, they are pivoting and diversifying, and that is a good sign. Ara says, do you have a maximum asset allocation on a DeFi investment? uh, Allocations and portfolio balance are really a gut instinct. You have to have enough of a position such that when appreciation occurs, you have enough velocity. You have to have enough of a position such that the ROI, the APY yield, is meaningful. Um, and no one could tell you, and sometimes you can't even tell yourself what the best position is. And this is where risk reward consideration comes into play. If you have too much of a position, there's risk. If you have too little of a position, you will not get the velocity of money that you're looking for or the yield that you're looking for. Um, and there's no perfect answer. There's no perfect answer I have for my portfolio. Sometimes, like, look, Kyber's about to hit, so maybe I moved in a fair amount of my ETH position into Kyber, and maybe I'll move some out after appreciation happens over the next month or two. Um, that's a risk. It's safer to have retained the same position I had prior to the most recent news announcement. You know, catching the social media hype. um, but then again, maybe I just retained the position that I took yesterday and the day before because of the yield potential that I think it has. So I don't know. There's no perfect answer. No one could tell you what to do. But what I highly recommend is that everyone tries to find their gut instinct and make these decisions for themselves and don't rely on other people to tell you actions to take. Fran says, what can DGB disrupt? Well, as you see on my screen, I love me some DGB. DGB, Digibyte is the not sponsor of today's video. Not sponsor. I like this non-sponsor program. Makes me smile. Digibyte disrupts record storage and asset management, which is basically Amazon, AWS, uh, everything and in between. Record storage and asset management. Apply that to the healthcare industry. Apply that to the data storage systems that the stock market uses for servers and infrastructure. I mean, literally, we're talking about decentralized, redundant data storage. That's it's basically if anyone's familiar with DevOps, this is a global RAID deployment. Fascinating, right? This is a global RAID deployment. And Digibyte, like many other UTXOs, they fit into the same bucket. In most regard, most UTXOs are disruptive of data storage and asset management, but Digibyte's unique because of its protocol properties, its speed, its difficulty adjustment occurring every block, its maximum supply, its emission rate, its rolling emissions rate reduction. There's no halvings like with other projects, but it's constantly reducing its emission rate. These are just absolutely profound protocol changes and tweaks as compared to the Bitcoin protocol. And I see obviously many UTXOs in the future being bundled and grouped into like an SDK, a basket for implementers to use, and they'll be able to choose different UTXOs based on the project they're building and the protocol properties that best suit the project. And that's the future of the industry. Um, just a couple more questions and we'll end it. 12:31. John says we need to raise capital for a crypto investment fund and get Noah out of his day job, please. Love you, John. Thank you. We'll see what happens. I got to go back to work. I thank you all for your time. I appreciate it. Every user, every subscriber, every thumbs up. I truly appreciate